ucpublicaffairs.com, and you'll find it there. And he's been following this race from start to upcoming finish. Hard to believe this has been going on for how long? Forever, it seems.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you how long.
Over about a year, right? We've been in the middle of a campaign here. Luke Perry, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. How you doing?
Good. It has really been we're right up on a year, a little bit more than a year now.
That's right. Yeah, Anthony Brindisi declared pretty early in a typical cycle. So yeah, it's been quite a race here.
So where are we right now? There's a lot of politics that are really, as you would expect, presidential politics that seem to be playing a role here, from the immigration stuff and the separation of families. Now the Supreme Court battle, which reopens the Roe v. Wade. There's a lot happening. How is it affecting this race? It should benefit the incumbent here.
It may. Yeah, I mean, I think that the recent immigration issue is a challenge for Republicans, right? That's something that President Trump has prioritized, toughening up our immigration policies, particularly at the border with Mexico. So the latest iteration of that with the family separation issue is not something that incumbent Republicans wanted to be talking about over the last few weeks. So that, I think, is a challenge. The Supreme Court, on the other hand, it's good for Republicans having another retirement, the president being in the position to nominate somebody. The Senate, it'll be tight, but in the position with everybody voting the party line, able to confirm someone, that is something that the Republican base is pleased about and will be excited about, and depending on the timing of the process, could be helpful to the midterm campaign for Republicans.
Congresswoman Tenney, in an interview, called President Trump on the road to, or already, the greatest president we've had in modern times. His numbers are up, and even among their base, his poll numbers are up, despite this separation of family situation. And Tenney seems to be right in step with the president. How moderate is this district? Because Trump was a big winner here.
I think Congresswoman Tenney is, like all people seeking election or re-election, thinking about this strategically. And she looks at the numbers, I suspect, from 2016, and sees that Donald Trump outperformed her in the district quite handily. It was actually the second largest margin in the country where President Trump outperformed a Republican House candidate. So I think she knows that turnout's going to be important. Typically, the party in power that is held by the presidency loses seats in the midterm. So I think she's trying to mirror Trump on the campaign trail in order to turn out Republicans who might be a little less enthused because Trump's not atop the ticket this time around. Now, the challenge with that is I think moderate Republicans are going to be important in this race for both Tenney and Brindisi. So the more Tenney goes to the right, the more she can frustrate or alienate moderate Republicans. So it's a high-risk, high-reward strategy.
Yeah. Do you hear? I do hear a lot of the big issues. Nancy Pelosi, that seems to be something that's working against Brindisi. Republicans saying, listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Claudia Tenney. I really like Anthony Brindisi, but I can't take a chance in Republicans losing the House for fear that there would be an impeachment. Are you hearing any of that out there?
Well, I mean, I do think that Nancy Pelosi has said that, impeachment is not the priority of the Democrats right now. And that seems to be the case. But, of course, if the Democrats take control of the House, that could all change. So I do think there's some traction there for Republicans and being concerned about that. Maybe they don't like everything that Donald Trump is doing, but they like much of his policies, so they don't want that to end. Now, in terms of Pelosi as leader, I think there's, Anthony Brindisi has said that he's going to support a change for leadership. I think we're seeing more and more Democrats do that. So from my perspective, I don't think it's a done deal that Pelosi would be leader if the Democrats win. Obviously, she has a lot of experience. She raises a lot of money. She works effectively behind the scenes. But, I think particularly in what we've seen downstate with the recent race there with Joe Crowley, I think there is a pretty strong push among Democrats for a change in regards to leadership. So that, to me, is more of an open question. But the impeachment thing certainly is helpful to Republicans who oppose that, and we'll get them out to vote most likely.
Democrats who were saying they wouldn't support Pelosi, were many of them eyeing Joe Crowley? And does that change anything?
Crowley was like third. He was one of the top three, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's the number 4. I bring that up in the sense that, you know, there can be this notion that leaders are kind of impervious from losing their leadership role, or in Crowley's situation, losing their seat. So I meant it more like, you know, even a top leader of the Democratic Party is not even necessarily safe in a primary. So that's why, you know, when I look at the leadership of the Democratic Party, their House leaders are older than a lot of their members. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if not, you know, this year, in the coming years, there's going to be a change in leadership, and that's going to be different.
Yeah. You had a chance to speak with the Congresswoman on family separation. Tell us what your take on your sit-down was.
Oh, I didn't actually speak with her. I was just referencing an interview that other journalists did.
Okay.
But I think, you know, based on following her and her public statements, I think that she's trying to hold the line in regards to immigration. I mean, she's long been a critic of immigration policy and wanting to tighten our border, and has mirrored President Trump's concerns about defending the border, undocumented immigrants, these types of things. But at the same time, I think is that, you know, that particular story, as we were talking about before, gained more and more national traction. I think she worked, you know, kind of moved a little bit away from that position and opposed the family separation, and she co-sponsored a related bill that's kind of still in the works along those lines.
And then finally, the protesting over the weekend. It is, boy, I mean, in some cases, pretty violent and hard to look at. There is a division in the Democratic Party. Probably not what we would see up here, as we're far more moderate. But how much does all of this play out? I mean, we are early yet, but this summer things are going to heat up. How much does this play out over the next few months leading into this election?
One of the sort of the calling cards of this current political climate is that it's so difficult to predict what to expect. Yeah. So, I mean, that's hard to say. I think what we'll see in regards to the race is that Representative Kenney will try to increasingly focus on her record. So I think we'll hear a lot in terms of her messaging about the different things she's doing, and she'll try to gain attention for that. And then I think with Anthony Brindisi, you know, he's in a pretty good spot, as we've talked about in the past. His polling indicates that it's close, or he's up a little bit. So, I mean, I think he's going to try to focus on particularly getting to the parts of the district that he hasn't represented as assemblyman, try to enhance his name recognition, right, and get people more familiar with him as the race pivots to the summer period.
I do say two things that as the race pivots to the summer period, I do have a feeling we're going to see some TV action. Are you hearing any of that? And then the other part is, I think that a debate between these two would be much anticipated. Start with the first, if you could, on commercials this summer.
Sure. I mean, I'm not aware of the exact timing of that sort of thing, but as we've also talked about in the past, I think there's going to be a lot of money spent both inside and outside on television advertisements and these types of things. So, of course, both candidates will be doing that, and how they do that and when they do, it'll be interesting strategic choices that they're going to make.
And then, of course, the debate. I mean, I can't imagine there won't be a debate. And I can only imagine this would be highly anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see from a political science perspective. Usually the candidate who's leading is less inclined to do a number of debates.
Right.
And we've, you know, the situation is a bit upside down now. So, I mean, a few months ago, Claudia Tenney, in a radio interview, said that she wanted to start debating Anthony Brindisi then, do as many debates as possible. And that was really kind of remarkable from a political science perspective. Usually an incumbent doesn't want to do that.
Well, we saw that with between Tenney and Hannah. Hannah would not debate her. Yeah,
but I mean, just to have an incumbent wanting to debate so, you know, early and often, so to speak, was
that's
really interesting.
That's kind of telling, wouldn't you think, that maybe she's feeling a little heat. Why else would she want to debate?
Well, it's hard to say whether those comments were made just sort of in the moment or if it was some reflection of larger thinking. And that's where I think, you know, your question comes in. At some point here in the next few months, I imagine both sides will kind of iron out the number of debates and the setting and that sort of stuff. And then it'll be really interesting to see them both on the same stage and what happens there.
It will be much anticipated, no doubt about it. Always an interesting read. There's so much going on. It's like you just can't keep up with it. Luke Perry, we appreciate it. ucpublicaffairs.com. You'll find the NY22 Minute along with a lot of other great stuff. Luke, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. Luke Perry from Utica College.